Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele. Welcome to our first SAT class of 8. I am going to be your teacher for this class, for all of the classes to come. And trust me, you are in good hands. I have been an SAT tutor since 2006. I have done it all. I've taught SAT classes online, in person. I've done private tutoring. I've taken the SAT more times than I care to remember. I most recently took the June SAT, so I've got lots of experience with the actual test. And many of you might even have seen some of my YouTube videos. I've got a pretty big channel all dedicated to SAT stuff. So you are in very good hands. We're going to talk about different things in each class. I've got a whole lesson plan for us. But basically, it's going to be supplemented by what you guys are doing on your own in the SAT portal. And I'll show you that in a second. But let's make sure everyone is logged in. And then we can get started on some questions that I've written for you guys and hit some major strategies to start off our prep. Hello, everyone. We're a little early. Hello, Liam. Nice to finally meet you.
You too. Nice to meet you.
If you guys can see my screen, we still got a couple minutes, but if you click the My Screen tab at the top, I want you guys to get into this page. This is the portal that you got a separate login for. And when you get there, there's this button, Television for Class. That is what we're going to be using. So you can go ahead and click that. It shouldn't show anything quite yet, but I'm going to put on a very hard question. And that we can occupy ourselves with for a couple minutes. Don't panic. They're not all going to be this crazy, but if you've got some ideas, feel free to try them. And so eventually you should get to something that looks like this. This is the question. And if you want the scratch paper, you've got it. Basically, what we're going to do is use that so that you guys can interact with these questions as we go. This is, like I said, a very hard one. So no pressure to get this right away. We'll do some easier ones too. If you guys don't want to put on your screens, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. Whatever you're more comfortable with. If you have a question or something, put it in the chat because that's going to be on top of my screen. And feel free to ask questions. I've got a lot planned for us, but don't hesitate if something isn't clicking. This crazy question, work on a little bit, but we're going to come back to it. If you have an answer, you can click and you can enter it here. This is a little different from how the main student-produced response works in the Blue Book app on the actual SAT, but that's just a programming thing. And these scratch papers you can feel free to use as well, or just having a paper is fine. So where do we get the questions from? This particular question I wrote. So it's based on other SAT questions that I've seen over the many, many years of doing this. I'll give it another sec. You guys, again, can work on this if you have any ideas. If you have no ideas, that's okay. Like I said, crazy hard question. The homepage of this portal, this Television for Class, that's what we're going to be doing during these Zoom sessions. This is where I'm going to let you guys interact with the questions. So it's a very similar format to the actual SAT. You'll see I've put some homework things here that you can follow. This is just meant to supplement the other portal. The best way to get in touch with me and the most immediate is through this. Go through the tabs here really quick, and then we'll swap out the question and start talking about some strategies. The main buttons at the top are pretty much everything you'll need. Like I said, this is a Television for Class. That's getting you to the page here where you have the access to the question. And if you click the scores button, you will have the ability to enter scores that you get. So two kinds of scores: Blue Book practice test scores. These have, there's pretty clear instructions about how to enter those. And then official scores, which are much easier to enter. So you can just choose, okay, I took the May SAT. That was on May 3rd or something. I got a 610 and a 590. And then those knowledge and skills things, 6, 7, 5, 5, 5, 7, 6, 6. And submit. And there you go. Any past scores are there. And this is helpful for me. So maybe make it a point to do this sometime this week. I'll remind you guys in the homework as well to do that. But it'd be cool for me to see your scores. And then you can have the full score report for any past scores, just so I have a sense of where you guys are starting from. And once you have practice tests as well, like I said, those will go in and we get much more detailed results about those. Those are really, really useful for just keeping track of your progress. But don't feel compelled to do a practice test if you haven't done one in Blue Book. We don't need one right away. We'll learn some things first before we get into that. That'll happen during our third class. We'll talk more about that. If you have questions about that page, let me know, but that should be pretty straightforward. And the main page is going to be this practice one. This is where a lot of good stuff happens. And there's going to be basically all these different exercises and things like that. So these tabs right here coincide with our classes. There you can see there's 10 steps in this study plan. There are 8 classes, so we are going to double up when we get to some of the practice tests. But this is probably the easiest way to organize your practice. And we are going to do some work today on the strategies for the main parts of the sections. You can see here there's a lot of good exercises that you can work on. There's some easy quizzes at the beginning. There's some specific strategy exercises, and each one of those is going to let you answer questions the same way we're going to do tonight. So basically, the strategies part is what we start off with because that's the most important piece of the SAT. We've got to be able to change the strategies we use to change the scores that we want to get. So this is basically what you, almost like a checklist that you want to make sure you accomplish each week. You can work on each week's lessons a little bit before our class. You can do a little bit after. I'm not expecting you to have completed everything beforehand, but basically every week you want to be working through one of these. And again, I'll post that in the portal, kind of somewhere here, and then also in the other portal as well, so that it's in multiple places. So it's just a really great way to stay organized. And we are going to talk about things like dumb summaries today. And so when you make an exercise, you'll see most of them have a video at the beginning that you can watch. I highly recommend watching the video before you start the lesson because I go into specifics, especially for the strategies where I want you to change the way you're thinking about things. So it's really important that you're answering these 10 questions using the stuff that I talk about in the video. So really, really great. And then for each of these questions, when you get to it, not to spoil it, but this is not such a bad one. If you get it right or wrong, a little video appears going over it. And so that's really, really important is that you also learn from mistakes right away. Don't just look at it and be like, okay, I get it. The correct answer is whatever. You want to make sure that you're learning what you could do differently to get it right. And there's a little analysis here about what might be going wrong in your answering, right? So any questions so far? You can feel free to chat them or unmute if it's easier. That's fine. I do want to show you one other thing. Okay, so if I go back to this, you'll see at the bottom of this particular checklist, there's this bookmarks quiz. I highly recommend everyone do this. Okay, as you can see, watch the video, important instruction. And that's because the bookmarks are part of the way we want to think about this test, right? So if you're trying to prepare for the SAT, obviously you're going to do some practice questions. You're going to get some of them wrong, but you're also going to get some of them right by accident. And that's an opportunity to learn something new. So I'm a real stickler for this. We want to basically use this button right here, this mark for review button, to indicate when we are not sure of an answer. And that video at the beginning will explain this in much more detail, but we are going to use this tonight. I'll talk about it as we go through some questions. Basically, we want to make sure that if we get something right by accident, we still review it with some video like I've got for most questions, or you ask me if you're confused, you can chat me about a question. But that's a great way to basically double the amount of practice you're getting. It's not just about right and wrong. If we're only thinking about things being right and wrong, we are missing another dimension to the SAT is how sure were we? Did we do it efficiently? Did we use a strategy that's going to make us better in all sorts of places? So this bookmark thing, really, really important for improving our scores. We want to make sure we're taking advantage of all those opportunities to learn. So you will hear me be a pain in the neck about that. And that brings us back to this question, where most of you, even if you get an answer, are probably hitting this mark for review button. And you can do that even on the questions that we work on this portal here. And I have all your answers here, so I know when you guys are struggling, getting something right, getting something wrong, so I can keep track of everyone. But this would be a good example where if by now you don't really have any clue what's going on, you can bookmark it. So that way, even if you happen to guess randomly correct here, you can make sure you go back. But I want to make sure you guys also know that it's not going to be this hard every single question. We are going to cover a wide variety. So let's back up a little bit. I know some of you might still be working on this one, but let's do a little something different. Let's back up and do a slightly easier question. Take a look at this one. There are a couple ways to do it. And we are starting with math because I think that's where we have both the best advantage because you've probably all learned all the math you need for the SAT from school. If you've taken Algebra 2, you're good. You know everything. But we also learn things in school maybe in ways that are different from the way that we want to solve things on the SAT. So feel free to give this one a shot, and then I'll talk about my method here. But as soon as I see this question, I know exactly how I'm going to solve it. Even before I really read it, I've got a plan. So give it a try, and you can interact with this. If you want to cross out answer choices, you can do that like this. You can choose it. You can mark it for review, all that good stuff. All right, cool. I'm seeing some answers here. I'm seeing some crossouts. That's good. That's good. And I promise you, you don't really need to know anything about parabolas to get this right. I know that that word is important in the question, but you don't really need to know anything about it. Give it another couple seconds, and then I'll start talking more about my solution here.